everyone, and welcome once again to our show that is called Real Shame. It's a show where us two guys watch movies from our movie list of shame or movie blind spots. Basically, movies we haven't seen that we're fixing for you today. And this week we have some movies that are written and directed, or not, at least directed and starring the same person. And before we get it, oh wait, I'm Adam, by the way.
I'm Andy,
yeah.
by the way.
Jumping back, we got some movies this week that are written and directed and starring the same person. And to get into that, I'm going to toss it over to Andy to tell you about the first one.
All right. Bobby Taylor wants to become an actor, but almost all the roles for African-American men and women are horrible stereotypes. So to take a role like that would be demeaning and might label Bobby as a sellout. Robert Townsend sends up the movie industry and its view of black actors in Tinseltown in Hollywood Shuffle.
And now, to recap the movies we saw. We both gave thumbs down to that classical shit, Amadeus meets Hilarious.
We disagreed on Chicago Jones. I gave it a thumbs down, but he liked it, that bullshit.
Dirty Larry, the movie where the crooks wait for Larry to go in his jacket, pull out a big-ass gun. What they think he was looking for? His American Express card? Damn. We both gave Dirty Larry the finger.
The last movie we really enjoyed. It was full of stereotypes, but it was well directed, and we thought the combining of the zombie pimps and the street hoes was brilliant. We gave it the serious high five. And that recaps all the movies we saw.
Well, join us next week when we will be reviewing like 5 new movies. That's if we can sneak in the movie theaters and check them out.
Yeah.
So see y'all next week.
See you next week.
So Hollywood Shuffle came out in 1987. It's directed by Robert Townsend, comedian, actor, director. Sure. He's gone on to do movies like The Five Heartbeats, The Meteor Man. Most recently, he's transitioned more into directing television.
Yep.
We were mentioning earlier that he directed Kaleidoscope, or one episode of Kaleidoscope.
I think at least one episode of Kaleidoscope.
He's directed some episodes of like Black Lightning and some other newer shows that I saw. He still does the occasional movie, but for the most part, it looks like he's doing a lot of TV now, television. Hollywood Shuffle is co-written by Robert Townsend, and the other writer of Hollywood Shuffle is a guy you might have heard of, Keenan Ivory Wayans.
That guy?
Yes, one of the many Wayans. We got Marlon and Damon and Keenan, and Kim, I believe, is the sister. Yeah. So the movie stars, Hollywood Shuffle stars, Robert Townsend as Bobby Taylor, Anne-Marie Johnson as Lydia, John Witherspoon, Winky Dinky Dog, John Witherspoon, Mr. Jones. Yeah. Helen Martin plays Bobby's grandma. Brad Sanders plays Batty Boy, Batty. David McKnight plays Uncle Ray, and Starletta Dupois plays Bobby's mother. Now, Robert Townsend and Anne-Marie Johnson, I mentioned they play Bobby Taylor and his girlfriend Lydia, but they also play a lot of other roles. In fact, most of the people in this movie play lots of other roles. They play many different things. So I won't mention any character names, but the rest of the movie cast features Keenan Ivory Wayans, also co-writer, Eugene Robert Glazer, Roy Fagan, I'm really not sure how you pronounce it. I'll say Fagan. Roy Fagan, he would have a larger role in The Meteor Man, another Robert Townsend movie. Grand L. Bush, Damon Wayans is in Hollywood Shuffle. Kim Wayans is in Hollywood Shuffle. Dom Herrera, Steve James, and Paul Mooney. And there's probably some other people I'm leaving out, but those are all the people that kind of jumped out at me. This is a movie that I have seen several times before. This is one of those movies that used to be on cable back in the day, like on HBO or something back in the day.
It on that.
Yeah, well, I had a friend, I've probably mentioned this before, I had a friend that lived around the corner from me, and his parents were like always gone. His dad worked in like Houston, and his mom was a nurse, and she was always working. Yeah. So he always had the house like to himself. Yeah. So I could go over there because my parents were too cheap to pay for cable, and I don't blame them.
Just gorge on.
Yeah, his parents, despite the fact that his parents were never there, they like paid for all the cable channels. Yeah. So they had HBO, Showtime, Skinamax, all that stuff. His dad had a refrigerator full of beer, so we would sneak a beer here and there. We were like 10 or whatever.
Like an idyllic youth right there.
It was great. But I could go over there and I could watch movies on cable that I couldn't watch at home, right? So this is just one of those movies that just happened to be on a lot, and I used to always watch it. So I've seen this movie plenty of times, but this is a movie that you've never seen.
Never heard.
Okay, that was my next question.
Yeah, sorry, I jumped the gun.
No, it's okay, but you know who Robert Townsend is, because I know you've seen The Meteor Man.
I have seen The Meteor Man.
And maybe some of his other films, but what did you know? I mean, obviously you'd never heard of this film. So I guess that's kind of a stupid question to ask. What did you know about this film?
Yeah.
That would be nothing. But what were your expectations? I guess maybe
Yeah.
going into this film, and what did you ultimately think of it?
I was a little nervous actually because we did the Sidney Poitier and Bill Cosby movies not too long ago,
Yep.
and those movies didn't really work for me.
They're not very funny.
They're not very funny. So I was kind of like, oh no, we're getting some more comedies, and are these going to stand up? Are these going to be funny? Am I going to enjoy these and all that kind of stuff? So I was a little like hesitant and tentative going into it because I was worried that I wasn't going to like it very much.
Right.
So after watching it, I got to say I really like this movie.
Awesome.
I think I think this movie's really funny. I laughed a lot at it. And I thought it was very interesting, just like the send-ups and like the sketches and all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't really tell like an overall kind of story. It just has enough loose story, has enough general story just so they can kind of put these sketches together and stuff like that. So it's almost like a Saturday Night Live, or I'm trying to remember what the Wayans Brothers TV show was with Jim Carrey.
In Living Color.
In Living Color. It's kind of like In Living Color, the movie, but with like a wrapper around it and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And, it's good and bad on that. But overall, I kind of liked it. I think my only criticism is that I feel like maybe some of the sketches are a little long in the tooth, and they could probably be, if they were cut a little bit shorter, they would be a little bit sharper. Like some of them just feel like, okay, yeah, I get it. Like, and it doesn't really kind of change or morph. It just kind of feels like it's hammering the same idea home and stuff like that. So I didn't, but that's just really like being really nitpicky on it.
Yeah.
But overall, I actually really thought this was really funny. I thought it was a lot of fun to watch. I like that the movie ends with like 2 musical numbers, and I think I'm like, this should happen to every movie.
Yeah.
Like, this is great.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. So I'm really, really favorable. It actually kind of made me think like, and this was, and we'll see if this opinion changed with Meteor Man, but it made me think like, man, I wish Robert Townsend made more movies.
Yeah.
Like, I guess he made a lot. It looks like he's made a lot from his IMDb, but they're not movies I'm aware of. But I feel like with this stuff, like, I wish he was kind of like a Spike Lee figure where he's pumping out movies like this, because I would like to see more of this ilk and more on this take, because I thought he was, he's kind of like nebbish and nerdy to look at, but I think he does well bring in the supporting cast of characters and stuff, and he's interesting to watch and all that kind of stuff. So I'm favorable for it. I liked it a lot.
Well, I'm happy to hear you say that. I love this movie. I enjoyed watching it on cable as a kid.
Yeah.
And I think I enjoy it even more so now. As you said, I find this movie incredibly funny.
Yeah.
It's like an hour and 20 minutes long, so it's a breezy watch.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you could just sit down and just have fun with this film. And I'm glad you mentioned Spike Lee, because I thought of Spike Lee also while I was watching this. This movie has a message, even though it's a comedy. It definitely has a message, because Robert Townsend was motivated to write this. He was a comedian and whatnot at the time, and I'm sure he had been in some things acting-wise as well. Well, I know he had been in some acting things as well, but this is the kind of thing that he had to go through as a black actor in Hollywood, having, these people say like, well, can you be more street? Can you talk more jive? All this kind of thing. And he's like, yeah, but that's not the only thing I can do.
Yeah.
I'm, much more range than that. Is that how you see us? Like that.
Yeah.
So it was based on his own experiences. So it has a message, and he's parodying that and lampooning that and all those things, but he doesn't like I like Spike Lee for the most part, and I like plenty of his movies, although like Summer of Sam I didn't like, but Do the Right Thing I love, those kinds of films. And Spike Lee typically always has a message in his films.
Yep.
Spike Lee, unfortunately, sometimes though, he beats you over the head with it, right? I mean, there's nothing subtle about it at all, and that's fine. That works, certainly. It gets to the point. But in this movie, I don't feel like Robert Townsend is beating you over the head with it.
I think he's very straightforward with it, but he does it with comedy, which makes it land easier.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
yeah, perfectly said. And I agree with you. I think Robert Townsend just has a likable quality.
Yeah.
He just has like a kind face. Like, he looks like the kind of guy that you meet him and he'd just be the nicest guy.
He's like
right?
an everyman.
Yeah,
like,
he's great. He's great. But I enjoy this movie, as you said. I mean, it's mainly just about his kind of flights of fancy,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
as he's going through this audition process.
Yeah.
And yes, it has like a through story, you know, through line to it. You know, he wants to be an actor. He works at Winky Dinky Dog with these other two guys, with Keenan Ivory Wayans and these other guys. And the whole time he's just kind of daydreaming about, you know, he'll hear somebody say something, he'll go, what about this? You know, and he'll think about that. But it's all just so much fun. And it, you know, like we both mentioned, it's just very funny. You laugh a lot in this movie. I love the two guys that sneaking into the movies or whatever that review the movies.
I was gonna say, after this, we should use that for the clip for this, or part of that for the clip.
Yeah.
Because he's like, when he's playing the football game and then they're reviewing like the 5 different movies. And they're showing that, and they have like the spin-off of Indiana Jones, which I love.
Yeah.
They have the Dirty Harry one.
Yep.
They have a bunch of those. They have like the zombie pimps, which is hilarious.
Love it.
Yeah. I think those are really cool. I like the black acting commercial. I think is great.
Yeah.
Like that's a solid skit and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think those skits are a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's great. I love the Dirty Harry one because I wrote the lines down. He's like, yeah, the guy, he like pulls out a gun and these guys are like listening to talk and he's like, make my day. Like, does 50 bullets in your ass make your day? I mean, it's just funny. And even some of the lines that are juvenile or silly, I still giggled like crazy. Like he does a funny parody of like a old detective movie like Humphrey Bogart, but it's like Sam Ace or something like that, where Robert Townsend plays the detective, and there's a part where, you know, because the lady comes in and she's got a case for him to work, and then they eventually start making out, and they're gonna have sex.
He's
on the
like,
desk.
I want to do it, or
I like when because he's like she was a great kisser, but her breath was stinky or something. I mean, it's silly, but I giggled like crazy.
Well, there's
like,
one thing.
It's
like he kept on saying like during that skit, it's like because they're gonna do it or something like that. It was like really funny.
Yeah, it's supposed to, and Keenan Ivory Wayans with the Jerry curl and the activator bottles and stuff, and when he like takes it away and he's threatening with, and his hair's just like
all
shrinking.
Like,
he's like, no, please. I mean, I find that stuff hilarious, and I wonder if that wasn't an influence on Coming to America with the Soul Glow, right?
Maybe.
Yeah.
It kind of also reminded me of The Last Dragon too, a little bit, with like how Keenan Ivory was playing, you know, Jerry Curl and all that kind of stuff, with Shonuff and all that. Yeah, like I like that callback.
Yeah. But I mean, just the movie's really funny, and again, it doesn't go on too long. I mean, it's not even 90 minutes long. It's a breezy watch. I also like the fact that it is with some musical numbers. It's just fun. I don't see how anybody could sit down and watch this movie and be bored with it, or you know, I mean, because I have a smile on my face the whole time I'm watching this film. I just think it's a lot of fun, and I love Robert Townsend. I love this movie. I think it's great.
Yeah, I agree.
Great stuff with a message, with a good message that needs to be said, but it doesn't beat you in the face with it. You get it, and it's funny, and I mean, yeah.
And it's still true to this day, as
still
it
true
was
to this
in
day.
1987, unfortunately.
Hopefully we've made some steps forward, but yes, definitely still true to this day. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, this is a great, fun, breezy watch. I highly recommend it, and it is coming to the Criterion Collection. I don't remember when this episode is going to air, but I think it's either out now or it's about to come out in the Criterion Collection. So pick it up. I'm definitely going to pick it up. I can't wait to see all the special features that they have on
I'm
it.
actually probably like you. I'm going to pick this up too to rewatch.
I would be fascinated to see outtakes or blooper reels or behind the scenes kind of stuff. Any of that stuff.
I'm sure there's a lot of things that got cut because it just you know, with Keenan Ivory Wayans who would eventually do A Living Color. Or was A Living Color around the same time as this? I feel
it's after.
I feel like Living Color is like in the 90s. Yeah. You know, would go on and make a lot of sketches and do that stuff, and also the Wayans brothers. So, yeah, I think there's probably a lot of fun stuff behind the scenes for sure.
Yeah, hopefully so. This movie, again, I remember seeing it back in the 80s, you know, when it was on cable and stuff, but I feel like it's been largely forgotten, right? I mean, and even though people might know who Robert Townsend is from either his acting or directing or something like that, I just feel like not enough people talk about this film. And so when and I think you pointed out to me that Criterion was putting it out on Blu-ray and DVD, I was like, that's awesome. Yeah. I hope this movie finds a whole new audience because of that. I think that's very cool. Me too. And Robert Townsend needs to be in more stuff that we watch. Yeah. Because I really like him. Yeah. I just think he's great.
Yeah, it just made me like I said, I wish there was more. I wish he had more output or more stuff I was aware of. I mean, I guess I need to track down some more stuff, but I feel like he's not as mainstream as he should be.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, I didn't look at his acting credits on IMDb. I just looked at his directing credits, and I mean, I've seen like some Black Lightning, and I haven't seen Kaleidoscope yet, but some of the things that he's done for television, but I haven't seen anything that he's been in a long time. I feel like, and the movies that he has directed, I haven't seen any of them hardly, since like the '90s. So yeah, I definitely would like to see him in more stuff, and I probably need to watch more movies that he's directed.
So we're big fans of this movie, obviously. What are the critics on this?
85% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, 80% audience. It got 2 thumbs up. Siskel was very excited about it. Roger Ebert liked it, but he wasn't as enthusiastic. But he still liked it overall. So they did give it 2 thumbs up. Leonard Maltin gives it just 2.5 stars. I didn't read his review. But he gives it 2.5 stars.
He was probably upset that he didn't have enough activator.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure.
All right. Well, that's our thoughts on Hollywood Shuffle. It's a strong recommend from both of us. Check it out on the Criterion Collection.
For sure.
Criterion Collection. We want to go visit that closet.
Sorry, what do they do in the guy singing the movie? They're like, give it high fives or whatever, and they do like a slap. They do. Yeah. They're like, we get this one. A bunch of high fives or whatever. They're like, do.
Oh, they do the thumbs.
Yeah.
That's us.
Very fun.
So that's Hollywood Shuffle. Lots of high fives. Go visit the Criterion Collection. Pull it down. Let us go.
Yeah, definitely. You won't be sorry.
All right.
Blind buy this one. It's good.
Yeah, I agree. On these Monday episodes, we like to talk about what we've been watching. I'm going to toss it back over to you. What have you been watching lately?
All right. So, once again, as we're filming this, we just got the Oscar nominations a few days ago. So I've been looking at some of the Oscar nominated films, whether it's picture or actor or actress or whatever. I'm just kind of going down the list. We talked about
someone in makeup. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, we talked about Banshees of Inisherin on last week's episode. Yeah, we both are enthusiastic. Yeah, exactly. A bunch of high fives on that one. We're enthusiastic with that one. But I watched 2 more movies from the list, and again, neither one of these. Or no, sorry, one of them is nominated for Best Picture. One of them is just nominated for actor or supporting actor, maybe. Brian Tyree Henry in Causeway, which is an Apple TV movie with Jennifer Lawrence, who was not nominated. I think he's the only nomination from that movie.
I know nothing about Causeway.
I knew nothing about it either, and that's how I love to watch movies. I knew nothing about it. I just saw that he got nominated. Obviously, I do know who he is. I've seen all of the Atlanta TV show. We saw him both in Bullet Train recently, and I've seen him in several other things. He's in one of those Godzilla movies, which is not necessarily a good thing, but I
think it was Godzilla versus Kong, right? Because he hacked the thing.
Yeah,
he's like the podcaster or whatever.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Not great.
So Causeway, I thought it was good overall. It's not going to blow your hair back, probably.
Yeah.
It's just one of those very small, quiet, intimate kind of dramas, right? I mean, it's just. It's about Jennifer Lawrence. Basically she's been in the service. Her vehicle her convoy was struck by an IED. It gave her a brain injury, so she has to come back to the States, rehabilitate. When she gets done with rehabilitation, she goes back home to her mother's house in New Orleans, and she meets the Brian Tyree Henry character, and they strike up a friendship. I am partial to these kinds of films because they remind me of like Lost in Translation, of Columbus with John Cho. Yeah, movies where two people find each other, and they don't necessarily have to have a romantic relationship. They just have a friendship. And in fact, in Lost in Translation and Columbus, they don't have really a romantic relationship. It's just a very strong friendship. This is that type of movie. I wasn't as crazy about it as I am, like Lost in Translation. I love, or Columbus, but I still think it's a good, solid drama. I'm a little surprised Jennifer Lawrence maybe didn't get nominated, just because she usually does. I'm not saying she's better or worse than any other role that she's done, but I'm surprised. Brian Tyree Henry is good, so I mean I can see the nomination there. But yeah, I mean it's a good, solid drama. I don't know that I'm going to remember it like a year from now.
Yeah.
But I thought it was good while I watched it, and then that's about it. But it's solid. They both do solid work. It's mostly them two in the movie. There's not a whole lot of other characters in the film.
Yeah.
So it's carried by them, and they do a good job. And that's about all I have to say about it. The other movie that I watched is a movie that I had not planned on watching from the trailer because it just looked crappy to me.
I keep on thinking you're going to say Elvis.
I am going to say Elvis.
Okay,
I am going to say Elvis because it's on HBO Max.
I was like, what other movies nominated for Best Picture are on streaming right now?
It's on HBO Max.
Okay, so the trailer looked terrible.
Yeah, I didn't want to see it at all. It looked really, really stupid to me. Tom Hanks, made up to look like Colonel Tom Parker, looked ridiculous to me in the trailer.
He had a weird accent.
He has a weird accent that comes and goes. Let me tell you, big time in the film. But I watched it. I actually watched it last night
with Austin Butler as Elvis.
Austin Butler is good as Elvis. Okay. I mean, I will say, I did he get nominated for Best Actor? I can't remember. Whether he did or whether he didn't, he's good as Elvis. I think he did his own singing, I believe.
If I remember correctly, whenever you're like seeing him sing, he sings, but then they morph it into Elvis, like whenever it's like long shots.
They do intersperse scenes with him and scenes with the actual Elvis, and so you can definitely see that. So if you've seen any Baz Luhrmann film, basically, you kind of know what to expect. Baz Luhrmann is very much into, kind of making like mixtape movies almost and that's what this entire movie is. And again, it's like Any Given Sunday, it's like 2 hours and 40 minutes. It's really, really long. So you're seeing this 2 hour and 40 minute long mixtape medley type thing. I didn't hate it. I mean, I wouldn't say I really liked it overall. Okay. Honestly, I'm not really favorable on it. Tom Hanks, I really wish they would have cast somebody else to play Tom Parker that wasn't as recognizable as Tom Hanks, because looking at Tom Hanks all throughout this movie, it just looks like something you might see on SNL or something, like played for laughs.
It's like Hoffa.
Yeah, it is. It's very cartoonish. You know Tom Hanks. You know what he looks like. So it just looks like he's on an SNL sketch and they slapped a bunch of makeup on him to make him look overweight and silly. And that's how it is. And his accent, again, it really, really comes and goes. Because the guy, Colonel Tom Parker was actually Dutch. And so he has kind of a Dutch-German kind of accent. And it's not good. Yeah. I mean, I love Tom Hanks. Obviously, he's an icon and he's a fantastic actor. But I could have done without him big time. Yeah. And he narrates the whole thing. And he's really it's told from the perspective of Tom Parker. Yeah. So he's in the movie plenty. The movie just moves at a breakneck pace. There's a lot of stuff in there that, I mean, I'm sure Baz Luhrmann is a big fan of Elvis. Why else would he make a movie about him? But I just feel like it's definitely not warts and all. I mean, Elvis is not a saint, but you don't get a lot of the dingy, dirty side of Elvis. Yeah. Towards the end of the movie, when he does his like Vegas residency and he's obviously getting a little more overweight and he's popping pills and he's doing drugs and stuff, you get a little bit more kind of warts and all approach, but not much. And there's not any transition to it really. It's just all of a sudden he's like taking pills and stuff. Yeah. You don't get any real motivation. I mean, it's just a mixtape, but it's a 2 hour and 40 minute long mixtape, and it just doesn't really work. I know some people love it and they love the flash and the panache that Baz Luhrmann brings. Like, I like Romeo and Juliet and some of those movies like that.
I like Romeo and Juliet. I like Moulin Rouge. I like
Moulin Rouge. Yeah. But this movie is just way too much. I don't know that Elvis was ever really concerned about civil rights, but if you watch this movie, he's certainly concerned about it. And I even thought that from the trailer. I was like, did Elvis really care? Yeah. But suddenly he cares. I don't know. And maybe that's factual. Maybe it's not. But yeah, I wasn't really a fan. But it's one of the Oscar nominees, so I thought I'd give it a chance. But I didn't really like it.
All right.
But yeah, so that's
Elvis, and that is
Elvis and Causeway. Yeah.
I've been to Graceland.
I have not.
And I'm not a big Elvis fan. He actually did a lot of there's hospitals he donated money to privately. He's don't make a big deal out of this. You basically take money and give it to him and stuff like that. And they had like stubs and had a little, because there's a museum you walk through that kind of gives a timeline of his life. And part of it is like this is like the things he donated to. So I found that interesting that he had causes and he gave to charity and stuff like that. But
well, I mean,
I don't know anything else.
I don't know much about Elvis.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard, obviously I've heard his music, but I don't know much about his life other than what we've seen in lots of other movies and whatnot. So, if he did charitable things and was actually concerned about civil rights, then great. But
Yeah.
I never knew any of that stuff. So
No, I agree.
All right, what about you?
So for me, I want to call out. I watched a movie that was, I believe, nominated for Best Picture. I don't think it won Best Picture when it came out. It was a few years ago, but it's a movie I missed. It's 1917. Sam Mendes's 1917.
Yep. I saw it in the theater.
I like this movie. I feel like the hype is a little too high for it. I think the movie is a good war movie. Like I don't feel like it. I feel like the only thing it really does or that it has in its corner is the fact that it's kind of told through one long take, right? And I feel like that it's exciting to see the movie done that way, but it's also a little bit to its detriment. Because when I'm watching it, I'm like early in the movie, they're like, it's gonna take us 6 hours to get there. And I'm like, well, this movie isn't 6 hours long.
6 hours, right?
So they're either gonna have to cut or someone's gonna have to get knocked out or someone's gonna sleep or something to get there, right?
Yeah.
So I was kind of waiting for those moments to come up. And like I think it's interesting, like the single shot and like for me it's the production behind it and the logistics of doing it is more interesting than the movie itself. Like the movie's not bad, but it's not a mind-blowing war movie. And you know me, I'm not keen on these kind of movies to begin with. So I'm probably gonna give it a harder time than I would, another movie. But that's kind of where I fell with it. I thought it was good. It was interesting. It's pretty to watch. Like the cinematography's good and it was really interesting, especially like when they're when he's in the city that's in ruins and they're shooting flares up and how the flares moving across the city and all that kind of stuff. Like that's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
It's scary and beautiful. But overall, as a story, it's okay. It's good. It's not elevated. It's not fantastic. It's good. It's kind of where
I felt the same way. I mean, to me, it's more of a gimmick than a movie.
Yeah.
But I can't say I disliked it when I saw it. I thought it was perfectly watchable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the whole fact that it's one take, I guess one take. It has that going for, or that's kind of the motivation to see it for a lot of people. It's like I want to see this war movie that's all shot in one take.
But it's not anything more than that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, it's not a movie that I've had a hankering to see again ever since I saw it in the theater. I'm like, okay, I saw it, done. Check that off the list.
Pretty much.
Move on. Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where I fall on that. The other movie I want to call that I watched was a movie that came out all last year. And the reason why I watched it is because one of the film essayists I watched on YouTube, Patrick H. Willems, did a whole episode about it. And I wanted to watch it because I wanted to watch his episode. And it was Ambulance, the Michael Bay movie. He's really favorable on this movie. Like he thinks it's a fun Michael Bay movie. And that it has all the Michael Bay-isms and over the top. And I tried to watch Six Underground that Michael Bay did, and I couldn't get through the first 5 minutes of it. I did watch all Ambulance, so in that book it's better than Six Underground, and it's better than his Transform movies.
That's not hard.
Yeah, I think it's nowhere near as good as the early Michael Bay movies, the Bad Boys and The Rock and stuff like that, and it's nowhere near as good as Pain and Gain, but I think it's kind of treading the Pain and Gain thing a little bit, where it's like a smaller movie. Like he shot it for like $40 million, which is a small budget for him.
I was gonna say,
and he shot it
to us, not small, but to movies, And
he shot it during COVID, and it kind of takes place in Ambulance. It's actually a remake of a Dutch film called Ambulance In. It's Ambulance with an N at the end of it.
Okay.
I think the characters are cool. It's interesting. I agree with Patrick Willems in the fact that Jake Gyllenhaal gets the kind of movies in, and he is over the top in all the right ways. Like it fits in the movie and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I think the biggest detriment to this movie is it probably needs to be 30 minutes shorter. It is.
like all Michael Bay
Yeah.
movies.
But I feel like The Rock and like Bad Boys is super short.
Bad Boys is actually tolerable. Bad Boys 2 goes
It's
on
too
like
long.
an hour too
People
long.
think Bad Boys 2 is like one of his best movies.
They
and
do,
don't
but I
get it.
don't. I mean,
Yeah.
it goes on like an hour too long.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So if it was like 30 minutes shorter, it would have been better. And there's like a lot of heavy-handed storytelling, but you kind of get that with Michael Bay movies. I also like the 13 Hours movie that he did. I think that's really good. It's actually surprisingly doesn't feel like a Michael Bay movie to me. Ambulance has all the Michael Bay touches of the car chases. He uses drone photography in this movie, and he really uses drone photography. Like they're doing acrobatics and stuff.
He uses the drone photography big time.
He hired like
That's
a
funny.
trick drone flyer to shoot the movie, right? So they do crazy camera moves in this movie.
Wow.
Which is kind of cool. And there's stuff he does that's really successful where like the drone camera seems like it can barely keep up with the action going on. Like it nearly misses the car as the car goes by and is like trying to turn around and catch it.
Huh.
And that stuff's interesting and kinetic and like it's worth seeing for that. And
Kinetic, but in a good way.
Yeah,
not
yeah,
in
yeah.
a Tony Scott,
Not in a Tony Scott way.
Oliver Stone, Any Given Sunday way.
He gets a little bit that way too.
Okay.
So I would say it's good. It's worth watching if you want to see like a fun Michael Bay movie. But just know that it's probably like 30 to 40 minutes long. And if they could cut out that piece out of it, it'd be much better. And there's a lot of Michael Bay meta-ness in it that feels a little like self gratifying and stuff like that. Like some of the characters talk about The Rock, or they talk about quotes from The Rock, and they talk about quotes from other Michael Bay movies.
They're
and
like, hey, have you guys ever seen that one Michael Bay movie? Man, Michael Bay's awesome.
Yeah.
I love Michael Bay.
It is stuff like that where you're like, okay, get it, I get it. So that's what I've been seeing. That's what I've been watching. Ambulance and 1917. All right. So we covered one Robert Townsend movie that we both liked, Hollywood Shuffle. What did you decide to pair it with? To pair with this movie?
Yeah, so there's a really good scene that I didn't mention when we talked about the actual movie, but I'll mention it now. I like the scene where Robert Townsend's character, Bobby Taylor, goes to the barbershop and Uncle Ray is running the barbershop and nobody's there. There's no customers there. He's about to close up for the night. But Uncle Ray, and this is actually kind of a more serious part of the movie, but Uncle Ray talks about how he used to be a singer and he used to love it and everything. And he's encouraging Bobby, it's like, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to take these roles. You don't have to do this. And he gives him this kind of speech. And one of the things that he says is, he's like, hey, you could even be the first black Superman. And I thought, maybe the Meteor Man sprang from that. Even though obviously this is a fictional movie, but I thought, maybe the Meteor Man sprang from that because Robert Townsend a few years later would write and direct and star once again in a movie called The Meteor Man in the early 90s. So I decided to pair Hollywood Shuffle with The Meteor Man because I'd never seen The Meteor Man.
All right.
So it's my first time watch.
Well, yeah. So stay tuned for that. So that's everything Hollywood Shuffle and what we've been watching more. And stay tuned on Wednesday when we find out what is the Meteor Man, what superpower he has, and all that kind of stuff. And we'll see you soon, guys, on Wednesday. Have a good one. Bye.